let's clear the air, because when you say home birth out loud, you'll quickly learn how many people carry around outdated, fear-based myths dressed up as concern. Suddenly, everyone's a safety expert. You'll hear things like, isn't that dangerous? Or what if something goes wrong? Or you're so brave, I could never do that. But underneath those comments is something deeper, a culture that's been taught to fear birth unless it's being managed, monitored, and controlled by a hospital. And that fear, it's not based in facts, it's based in generations of disconnection from what birth really is. So let's bust myths, starting with the biggest one, that home birth is inherently unsafe. The truth? For healthy, low-risk pregnancies, planned home birth with a skilled midwife is just as safe as hospital birth, with fewer interventions, fewer cesareans, and higher rates of maternal satisfaction. That's not an opinion. It's backed by large studies and supported by organizations like the World Health Organization and the American College of Nurse Midwives. Safety isn't about geography. It's about preparation, qualifications, and appropriate risk screening. When home birth is planned responsibly with clear transfer protocols in place, it's not reckless, it's informed. And calling it dangerous just reveals how little people actually know. Now let's tackle another huge one. I could never do that. I'm terrible with pain. That single sentence has kept more women trapped in fear than almost anything else. But here's the truth. Home birth isn't about being a pain warrior or proving how tough you are. It's about giving your body the environment it needs to work with labor, not fight against it. In hospitals, pain is often worse because of what surrounds it. Bright lights, strangers walking in and out, beeping machines, interrupted rhythms, and the constant message that something could go wrong. Fear makes labor harder, adrenaline tightens your muscles, stalls contractions, and pushes you into survival mode. But at home, with dim lighting, people you trust, and the freedom to move, moan, squat, sway, soak, or simply be, pain becomes something else entirely. It becomes intensity, power, sensation with purpose. And yes, it's still hard. But you're not stuck in a bed or coached to push when you're not ready. You're in your rhythm, and your midwife or doula is right there, reminding you how strong you already are. You don't need to be fearless to birth at home. You just need to be supported, because support changes everything about how pain feels. So if you've ever thought, I couldn't handle a home birth, I invite you to reframe it. You might not have had the supportive environment yet to truly find out what your body can do. Let's talk about the myth that makes me clench my jaw every time I hear it. Midwives aren't real medical professionals. This one's not just false, it's deeply disrespectful, and it reveals how disconnected our culture has become from the truth about birth and care. A certified professional midwife, CPM, or certified nurse midwife, CNM, is trained, licensed, and in many cases more deeply educated in physiological low intervention birth than many OBs. These are not hobbyists with crystals and vibes. They are healthcare providers with clinical experience, emergency training, and a deep understanding of how to support normal birth and recognize when something needs to be escalated. Midwives carry oxygen, medications, IV supplies, Dopplers, and even suturing tools. They monitor fetal heart tones, maternal vitals, labor, progression, and postpartum bleeding. They are trained not only in catching babies, but in protecting mothers. The real difference? Midwives don't intervene unless they need to. They treat birth as a physiological event, not a medical emergency, and they build relationships with the women they serve, something that's often lost in the 5-minute OB visits, where you might not even meet the doctor who delivers your baby. If anything, midwives bring back what modern medicine lost: time, trust, presence, and respect. And when supported by appropriate transfer plans and hospital collaborations, their care doesn't just match OB outcomes, it often exceeds them in terms of maternal satisfaction and lower rates of intervention. So, no, home birth isn't about rejecting medicine. It's about choosing a model of care where your body is trusted and your birth isn't treated like a liability. Now, let's take on the myth that home birth is only for crunchy moms or people who don't believe in medicine or those who somehow don't know better. That assumption is so far from the truth, it's almost laughable, and yet it's everywhere. It's whispered at baby showers, embedded in news headlines, and smuggled into conversations under the disguise of concern. But here's the reality. The women choosing home birth are often the most informed women in the room. They've read the research, they've watched the documentaries, combed through birth stories, interviewed midwives, and made decision after decision with their eyes wide open. They're not anti hospital, they're pro autonomy. They're not naive. They're intentional, and they're not giving birth at home because it's trendy or rebellious. They're doing it because they want to be fully present, fully heard, and fully supported in an environment that honors birth as powerful and personal, not a checklist of liability and speed. Home birth is chosen by lawyers, doctors, nurses, artists, first time moms, second time moms who had traumatic hospital experiences, and moms who simply want to feel peace, not pressure. It's not about being earthy, it's about being awake. And it's a decision rooted in the desire for sovereignty over one of the most sacred and defining moments of your life. So the next time someone says, "Oh, you're doing a home birth," with that tone, just smile because you know something they don't. You didn't stumble into this, you chose it boldly, wisely, and on your own terms. Let's finish with the one myth that lingers in nearly every conversation about home birth, the fear that if something goes wrong, there won't be time to get to the hospital. This is the showstopper, the final card that people play when they've run out of reasons but still feel unsettled. And yes, it sounds terrifying until you understand how home birth is actually structured. Planned home births are not random, isolated, or reckless. They're built on careful screening. You don't give birth at home unless you are low risk, healthy, and have a midwife trained to spot complications before they escalate. Emergencies in birth rarely happen out of nowhere, and when something does shift, it usually builds gradually. A baby's heart rate might start to decelerate, a labor might stall, a mom might show signs of exhaustion or rising blood pressure. These are all things that a skilled midwife is trained to catch early. And when she does, she acts calmly and clearly. Transfers happen, not often and usually not urgently, but they do happen. And they're not chaos, they're planned for in advance. The midwife has a hospital already selected, a route mapped out, and relationships built with the providers at that facility. If something needs more medical attention, you go before it becomes an emergency. And the data reflects this. In studies of planned home births, emergency transfers that require sirens and rushing are exceedingly rare. Most transfers are non-urgent, safe, and supported. In truth, every birth carries risk, hospital or home. The difference is that at home, the environment is built to support your physiology and reduce unnecessary interventions. You're not waiting for a doctor to show up. You're already surrounded by someone who knows you. And if that midwife says it's time to go, you trust her and you go. That's not risky. That's responsive, informed, and safe. So no, home birth isn't about pretending nothing will ever go wrong. It's about building the kind of care where your body is trusted, your needs are central, and your safety is prepared for long before the first contraction begins.